Namaskaram. Welcome to my channel, VPK Nutrition, Mind Body Healing with Pushpa. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about gas and bloating. Now, again, doesn't seem like a big disease, but again, it is a chronic condition that a lot of people go through, especially when you're 50 plus. Everybody goes through them. And of course, nowadays I see a lot of younger people complaining about the same things. And this could be related to our lifestyle, a lot of stress, a lack of sleep, eating at erratic times, eating the wrong foods, things like that. So I'm going to be talking about the modern medicine view and also the Ayurvedic view to bloating and gas and how we can rectify some of these things. So I'm going to share about 10 tips at the end of the video which could help you get rid of them if you are suffering from that. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for all my viewers who have been watching regularly and giving me feedback. If you haven't already done so, please do consider subscribing to this channel so you can see all of my videos. And also, if you find this useful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family so they can also be benefited. So let's get started with today's episode. Bloating and gas. Now again, this doesn't seem like a huge disease to talk about, but really it is a major complaint from a lot of my patients. Now again, it's not just the 50 plus, but also the younger population. I see more and more, they also have these kinds of issues. As I mentioned before, it could be related to the lifestyle. So again, I wanted to talk about this both from a modern perspective as well as an Ayurvedic perspective and give you some tips to help yourself. Now, this is not really a major condition. It's not studied by itself in modern literature, but usually associated with a lot of other diseases. However, there is no really evidence-based algorithm to give you a certain treatment when you have this kind of a problem. Now, although it's not a disease, it can be a great inconvenience. And not only that, it also messes up your quality of life. And I think most people who have this can agree with me on this. Possible causes, according to modern literature, could be, one of them is intestinal gas production and transit. The second one is gut microbiome and hypersensitivity of the patient's gut to these microbiome. And then the third thing is IBS. Generally, irritable bowel syndrome is associated with a lot of bloating and gas. And also you have FD, which is functional dyspepsia. Dyspepsia just means indigestion. So again, generally modern medicine treats based on diseases like the FD or the IBS, and FODMAP diet is a very common diet that is given to patients like this. Again, FODMAP is a very stringent diet, eliminates a lot of the sugars and to get rid of this bloating and gas. However, after the 6-week period, when you try to reintroduce the foods, it all comes back. So again, it's not a long-term solution. And of course, when people have this gas and bloating on a regular basis, they take over-the-counter medications like Gas-X and Mylanta, different things that can soothe the stomach. But again, none of these things are really a permanent solution that you can, you can be free of this completely. So as you can see, modern literature doesn't really offer a lot of dietary solutions that can completely alleviate the problem. However, Ayurveda, which is whole premise is on digestion of a person, not just the 5 elements, but also how a person digests their food, has a lot more simple solutions that you can actually incorporate into your day-to-day living. Now, again, I've talked a lot of about these things in my playlist on digestion, so definitely go watch some of that. But I will share about 10 tips today that can help you alleviate the gas and bloating. So before I get to the tips, the reason for gas and bloating is usually predominant when the Vata dosha, the 3 doshas, the 3 body type, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and the Vata is a combination of air and space. So everybody's a composition of 2 dominant elements. So when there is an imbalance in the air and space in the body, there is too much of air and space in the body, you're going to have this kind of gas, bloating, indigestion. And a lot of times the Vata personality itself has a lot of these issues. Again, they have very erratic digestion. So for a person who has this kind of an imbalance, there are certain guidelines given. So I'm going to go through these guidelines, about 10 of these. Again, this is not a comprehensive list, but it has pretty much a lot of it that can make the problem go away if you are consistent in following it. Number 1 is foods should be eaten warm, well cooked, moist, which is a lot of moisture, and also soothing in nature, which is easy to digest. So try to avoid very cold and dry raw foods, because this makes digestion much harder, increases the air and space, and causes the gas and bloating. Number 2, Ayurveda always talks about taste, so focus more on sweet, salty, and sour taste, and limit very pungent, very spicy foods, bitter taste, and also astringent. Okay, astringent is more of a the foods have a property to pull water or retain water, like for example dry beans and peas, popcorn, dry foods. All of these things tend to hold on to water, so this feels heavy in your stomach. So again, try to limit those, and even if you do eat those, cook it with a lot of moisture, or putting bay leaves can take away some of the gas. Also hing, which is asafoetida, we call it, that, and usually adding spices can also help with the digestion. So again, definitely minimize the quantity of those foods. Number 3, use spices in cooking, especially mild spices like coriander, cumin, fennel, even ginger, some black pepper, not the fiery cayenne pepper. Of course, you can add oregano, basil, paprika, those kinds of things as well, because these things will help you digest the food better and get rid of the bloating and the gas. Number 4, choose nutritively strengthening foods, more nutrient-dense foods, and eat smaller quantities, because vatas generally have a tendency to graze all day or snack all day and eat dry foods and things like that. So definitely that is just going to make things a whole lot worse. Number 5 is avoid cold beverages and also carbonated beverages. Again, all of these tend to increase gas in the body. Number 6, avoid incompatible foods. Now again, I'm going to explain that. This is a very unique concept in Ayurveda, and I have talked about it many times before, and also have a whole video on what foods are incompatible with each other. They may appear to be healthy on the outside, but when you combine them, they actually cause a lot of gas, bloating, indigestion, and all of that. An example of that would be combining fruits with dairy products, or fruits with meats, things like that. So again, always fruit should be eaten separately, and everything else should be eaten separately. So remember that. Number 7, given that the digestion is usually very poor, it's better to eat smaller quantities of foods, maybe 3 times a day, rather than eating just 1 or 2 large meals. This helps a little bit with the digestion. Number 8, avoid too much of fasting or dieting, this constant dieting on and off, which is very unhealthy, and that should be avoided. Number 9 is how you eat, where you eat. You sit down and enjoy your meal, eat in a calm environment with not a lot of distraction, noises, your phone, none of that stuff. Mindful eating, because this way your body is very relaxed and is able to digest your food better, and you don't have this kind of problem with the heaviness in the abdomen. Number 10 is cooking methods. Now cooking, you can definitely alter the food by cooking. So especially when you have air and space too much in the body, it's better to have a lot of moisture in your cooking. So boiling, steaming, even pressure cooking, and slow cooking is always very good, using a slow cooker, making soups and things like that. And also stir frying is a good method, but of course make sure you add enough oil and water so it has enough moisture in your food. Some of the cooking methods not so great is like deep frying, microwave, air frying, which is common nowadays, and also roasting and oven baking. All of these things tend to dry the foods. So if you are using any of those methods, make sure you're adding a lot of moisture. Of course, deep frying, you cannot do that. That is definitely not good for you. But if other things, at least you can add a little bit of moisture. So again, these are 10 tips that I have shared, which will a good guideline to start with. Hope you found all of this useful. Again, start with one thing at a time. Okay, so maybe for example, if you're eating a lot of cold foods and beverages, switch to warm foods, warm beverages, and also cook them well. Make sure there's enough moisture, and enjoy your meal when you're eating it. So again, these are just the few tips. that you can use right away. Definitely try these. Again, be consistent. Do it for the whole week and see if you see any changes. If you do see some changes, or if you find these useful, please put some comments for me so I know it's helped you. Again, for this week, listen to your body, observe your mind, and heal yourself. And I will see you again with a new episode in a couple weeks. So have a wonderful week ahead.